Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and continue.
Cool. And this doesn't change, and yet we've spiritualized everybody. This is called spiritual humanism. Why is it so crucial? Let me tell you. This is the conclusion of the Hindu religion. The reason why it's crucial and important is this. You see, it gives a very firm foundation to the ideas of morality, ethics, morality, and the idea of non-violence. This is the foundation to these three features of Hindu religion. Why? How? Why should I not hurt him? Or why shouldn't I hurt her? Why shouldn't I? Suppose I can steal all her stuff, pinch it without nobody's watching. Why shouldn't I hurt and take things? Why not? Why? Why should I not hurt somebody? Hit somebody? Why? Don't you see? The same thing that is percolating through here and appearing through these eyes is percolating through those eyes. If I hurt somebody, I am hurting myself. I am linked with her at a deeper spiritual level. This forms the foundation of why not to hurt or harm or kill. Why should I help somebody? Somebody's down. Should I say, okay, my religion said charity, throw some crumbs at him? No, this esoteric Hinduism says, no. When you lift somebody, don't you see what you've done? You helped yourself. Don't call it charity.
I'll say, I get, because I have a basic understanding of Advaita Vedanta, I understand where it's coming from. But even from, say, I would say probably a Western perspective, I think most other perspectives that don't understand Advaita Vedanta, even me to some degree, don't understand why you explain it that way. But with knowing Advaita Vedanta, I know why he explains it that way. But to say not to harm them because I'm harming myself, which if you understand Advaita Vedanta, you would know why that is. But if people who don't follow that or understand that, it's like I'm not harming myself, I'm harming that person. It's very difficult, I think, for people to understand that. To say, harming myself when you're harming someone else. And I was thinking along the lines, well, if you help someone, they can help you in return. And I think they'll probably be looked at as materialistic, as in, oh, if I do good for you, you're going to do good for me. Getting something in exchange, materialistic. But the rule that I kind of like, that I've followed, is the gold. I think they call it the golden rule. Do unto others what you want done to yourself. So if you help others, it's not necessarily because you're looking for a benefit for it, but it's kind of knowing that at least they won't become your enemies necessarily. So, but if you harm someone else, you do bad to someone else, that's gonna generate hate, and they may come back at you, either physically or through the job or whatever it may be. So, and also it's more beneficial to have more people that are friendly towards you, because then they can help you and assist you, to some degree. And so that's kind of like the golden rule for me. That makes sense to me, and I think it can probably make a lot of sense to a lot of people, because, yeah, of course, if I ever get harmed, I'm not going to like that person. I'm not going to help that person. I'm not going to stick up for that person. He just harmed me. Why would I do that? But if you explain it in such a way that, oh yeah, he helped me, it's like, yeah, I don't know him, but he was kind, and maybe I'll help him too in return. But to say that, oh, if I harm someone, I'm harming myself. That is a very difficult one, I think, to grasp for people who don't understand Advaita Vedanta. Even for me, I understand it, but it's still a bit difficult for me to grasp. As in, it's hard to make sense of that, even though I know that there is only Brahman, or Brahman is, and that is it. So, since we are all Brahman, and if we cause harm to something else, whether it be a human being, objects, or whatever, we're technically harming ourselves. I understand that, but still, it's just the fact that it doesn't. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just, I get it, but I don't. That's the best way. I don't know. Maybe you know where I'm coming from with that, and maybe you have a better way of explaining it, because I don't. because it doesn't make sense in terms of without Advaita Vedanta, but with Advaita Vedanta, I understand what they mean.
It's degrading to mankind. You are linked with the rest of the living kingdom at a deeper spiritual level. You're just manifesting this in the way you behave. So the reason why you link with other human beings, other living things, is because you are linked with them. And this is, you may think this is airy-fairy stuff. Look, ask any young child. Suppose there is something, some accident happens in front of the house, and, something gets smashed or something, we don't flinch. A little pigeon eating food on the road gets run over. The driver and everybody watching will go, ah, what, why? You see, we are already exhibiting our linkage to the rest of the living kingdom. We flinch. Why? We are linked. It shows this inner link. It becomes exposed. We are linked with. This is the basis of morality and ethics, and the idea of non-violence comes in this very unique manner. Direct. It's not because there's a God watching over your shoulder saying, watch it, you mess up and you come here, I'll thump you. There's no God looking over your shoulder, making you become ethical and moral.
And this is the thing that I never understood also in the religious sides, like for example, there's God and the devil. The devil's bad, hates God. But then there are people out there who hates God and does the opposite of what God wants, gets sent to hell, and then the devil punishes that person for disobeying God, which the devil likes. Didn't make much sense. Now, if you say the God and the devil are together, they're friends, and then God sends the bad souls to the devil to get punished, then that makes sense, because the God and devil are together. They're good friends. They just the devil's in charge of hell, to punish those evil sins. But then also explaining that you just, for example, I think I don't know if it's changed or not, but imagine you've been good throughout your entirety of your life and you commit one bad sin, but didn't realize it. You're damned for all eternity to be punished in hell. No room for forgiveness because you didn't ask for it when you were alive. How does that make sense? There was another one. Oh yeah, I think babies and stuff, or children, who lie or do whatever is considered to be a sin, and say they pass away really young. Are they eternally damned? And then I think the church made an appendage on that, or a change on that one. It's like, well, if they did, and I guess they talked about all the other people who didn't know about God, are they all sent to hell too? It's like, and then the church says, well, they didn't know about God, so they're automatically forgiven. So, well, at that point, don't let anyone know about God. So no matter what happens, they all go straight to heaven because they didn't know about God. It's like, what are you doing, condemning people to hell by telling them about God? Now they have to be good or whatever the rules are for them to get to heaven. Some of the rules are a bit crazy, like can't lie or something like that. That makes no sense as to why it would condemn you to hell. But obviously there are certain rules out there that obviously that people should not break. But there are some very basic ones. It's really odd.
You are linked with the rest of the living kingdom. You are stuck with them. You have no choice in the matter. This is a very direct reason why ethics and morality gets the foundation from these esoteric teachings of Hinduism, dignifying all living things, and giving special position to men and women. The highest worship of God, of course you can go to temples and tinkle bells, that's perfectly fine. But the highest worship of God, says this particular esoteric tradition, is service to men and women. Here are your living gods. Interact with them. Now, I've given you kind of very fast-flowing, I've shown you some of the exotic stuff, and you might think, this is all Hinduism stuff. It is visible in all world religions. You need to dig deeper. Let me just show you an example. I deliberately use it with Christian audiences. When you hear this teaching of Christ saying, if you cannot love the brother and sister you can see in front of your eyes, how will you love the Father you cannot see? Same idea, spiritual humanism with a different metaphor. He's saying the same thing. The spirit is invisible, but the visible Manifestation of the Spirit is men and women, your brothers here. If you can't interact with them, you miss the point. You lost the plot. Visible in other traditions very naturally. Again, I say, again, this exotic, esoteric, stylish material of the Hindu tradition, and you will go, wow, good stuff here. This is the theory. Now comes the idea of practice. And I have to be very critical and let this become part of the resource in this video, DVD, because we are producing resources. Hindus are very good theoreticians, but very poor practitioners. You see, it is, as I told you, this is an academic study of Hinduism. We want to show you this vast, wonderful thinking process and the poor practice. You go to India today and come off the plane. The first thing that will hit you actually, it hits all the Hindus who go from this country. It will hit you like a smack, is denigration of the dignity of humanity, crushed underfoot. If you don't have money, they'll crush you. Dignity? What dignity? They'll live off your blood and sweat without thanking you. The lower rungs of society get crushed. So this marvelous idea of spiritual humanism, dignifying men and women, does not find resonance in the practice in modern India. It has failed. I'm saying very bluntly and very blatantly, it has failed. Who are the best practicing Hindus in the world? You might be interested to know. Where in the world can you find humanity given a great deal of dignity? Well, in the United States, we are beginning to see a sparkle of that. Europe, maybe. Do you know where in the world humanity is given the highest respect? Where? Do you know where? Here. Here. You see, in the name of this very mature civic society, you have dignified men and women. Nobody goes hungry. Education, health, food, whatever. Never. I ask you, why do you do that? A refugee arrives here with lots of needs and no money. In two ticks, you give him shelter, education, food, anything he wants. Everything is given to him. I say, why do you do that? They are a different race, not your religion, not your race. Why do you do that? The answer I get, Mr. Lakhani, we can't help ourselves. He's a human being. We cannot let him fall out of the safety net. We need to hold him up. Just, we are human. We don't know why. It's just humanity.
Before you answer next, I'll have a little bit of a pushback on that one. So I'm assuming he's talking about him in London or maybe in Britain. Now, it's right and wrong. And he says maybe in America. What I mean by this is because even if you ignore the past, and don't get me wrong, like you should never ever forget the past, not because you want to hold grudge against anyone. I think that's the wrong way to do it. The reason why you remember the past is so that it doesn't happen to you again. Do not be fools and let it happen again. That's the purpose of remembering the past, by never forgetting. It's not to hold grudges, not to be angry, not to be, I don't know what else, something bad, but so that it doesn't happen again. So the government, I think, again, I'm not 100% sure over there. There is a lot of social programs, I believe, in Britain, but it's kind of all by force, though. That's the problem. And what I mean by that is that the taxpayers in Britain are forced to pay. I believe they're forced to pay these taxes. They have no option. So whether they want to or not, they have no choice but to do it. And then call it charity. It's like putting a gun to someone, says, give me your money, taking the money and say, oh, here you go. Oh, here you go. Poor people, here's some money. We are gracious. Hey, more? You know, obviously it's not necessarily seen that way, and I wouldn't doubt most people are willing to give. I've heard that America is very generous, but I don't know. I've heard that, of course, from Americans though. So, but I mean, I wouldn't doubt that Americans are generous in general. They give a lot of money to a lot of places, and whether willingly or not for that matter, but like hurricanes and tornadoes that hit close by, whether it's in America or Central and South America, they have given before, especially really bad ones. Not all the time, I'm sure. But the thing is, I'll say this again, in terms of Britain, there's a lot of social programs, but it's all based on taxes that people have to pay. And whether people are willing or not, it's still kind of mandatory. So when it's mandatory, it changes the, I don't know how to describe it. It changes the flavor of it. You know, is it really willing if it's mandatory? You get what I'm saying? Whereas it's better if there's in America there are social programs, and there are also people-run social programs. And what I mean by that is like you can find help in America in a lot of ways that are not government run. But there are some government run programs, but there are places in America where people are running this thing, so you know it's not being funded by taxpayers. It could be to a degree, but still it's privately run, where the government's just giving them money to run the operation, and then also run through donations and stuff. I think it's better if the social programs, the help and stuff, it's not funded by taxpayers, because then you know without a shadow of a doubt that these are people who donated their money willingly, donated their time willingly to help out people. Now, I don't know the situation in India, and don't get me wrong, whatever he's talking about in India, I'm sure happens in freaking UK, Europe, and America. Now, that's without a doubt in America, where you're gonna have some a-holes out there who don't care who you are, and whatever else. And I wouldn't doubt that if you go to a different part of India or America or Europe, that there's caring and willing people to help you out. I don't. Maybe he just hit a bad spot. I don't know. But you got India is kind of coming out of course, the British. And as a matter of fact, I did react to the video a little bit before this one. But the India was kind of raped, if you get what I'm saying, by Britain, and they're only, I think India is only like 76 years old, which I was generally astounded that in terms of its independence from Britain, it's only 76 years old. So it's very young, even younger than America, amazingly. But in terms of just India and its independence, obviously its history is significantly longer than that. But yeah, you can't expect a country to come out from what Britain did to India to be just at the top dog automatically, or to get everyone up to par, especially with a country so big. Even America being the most GDP or whatever, there's still freaking poor people and homeless people in America. Even if the country wasn't that big in America, I wouldn't doubt there'd still be homeless and poor people in America. It's just the way. I guess I don't know how to describe it. It's like if you have genuinely true socialism, you're gonna have a lot of lazy people. Don't get me wrong. Britain may have a lot of social programs to help people out of the rut, but they don't. Their population is not large enough to account for potentiality of a lot of people being lazy. In America, there are people out there who choose to be homeless and benefit from the government with money. I've explained this before about a video reaction between American poor and Indian poor. But anyways, real quick, it's the fact that they choose to be homeless and stuff because they don't. If they get a home or if they get a job, they lose the benefits, the government benefits. They lose their free phone, they lose their free meals, they lose their free money, they lose their, I don't know what else. And there's like, yeah, I can live off this just fine. I eat for free, sleep for free, get a cell phone, I get to text and do whatever. I don't have to work, and they choosing to do that. You know, again, the population of America is significantly bigger, and how many people are willing to do that? I don't know. How many people are willing to be homeless and just reap the benefits of the government because it's free? Again, I don't know. Maybe we definitely have some people like that out here. How many of them are there? I don't know. Maybe it's too insignificant to where, it can be paid. I think I'm talking too much into this, but I hope I made my statement clear.
Why I feel so comfortable to work in this country and interact with the Westerners? I see you as practicing Hindus.
I do wonder what. Sorry, I'm pausing again. I do wonder what Lakhani would think of today with a whole bunch of the left leaning. Well, it's far left extremists thinking about how racist the West is, where everything is racist, whether it is or isn't. It's just that if you disagree with them, it's all racist. You know, it's becoming quite prevalent. And then the fact that, you know, again, it's kind of difficult to give credit to charity if it's done at mandatory. Again, like I said about taxes and stuff, though, if you don't pay your taxes, you're going to jail. I'm sure of it. That's here in America, and I wouldn't doubt that being in the West as well. And that mandatory charity is being given out to these people. So, to me, what's genuine charity is volunteer money, volunteer work, where it's not mandatory at all. That is amazing. That is where it's at. And an example of that is kind of like when I watched Swami Sarvapriyananda talks about when he was a monk, how he goes and begs for food. There's no tax there. Swami Sarvapriyananda was out there, I need tax food, please. Yeah, you have to pay the tax food. It's mandatory, so you have to do it. No, he wasn't doing that. Was I in frame? He wasn't doing that. No, he's going out there begging. People were giving. That is voluntarily. They didn't have to do that at all. At least I don't think so. As far as I heard, no, he's begging. It's not mandatory. So, giving him food and stuff like that is genuine, in my opinion. What is he saying? Hinduism? But that's genuine humanity right there to me.
I'm very honest. This is not a. I'm not just passing these comments in a light-hearted manner. It's a very serious. What you are doing in this country in this particular juncture of history has not been done in any part of the world in the history of mankind. You've achieved the highest what the Hindus have been preaching. You've put into practice. This idea of dignifying men and women. In the name of this secular democracy, you've done what the Hindus were trying to do or continue to try to achieve, dignifying men and women. So when you come across this horrendous hereditary hierarchical caste system of India, that is, if you like, losing the plot. People say, Mr. Lakhani, surely the this hereditary caste system must be Hinduism because we teach it. I said, no more. I'm on to Edexcel and all the rest of the board said, nothing. You can't teach it. At best, hereditary hierarchical caste system is an atrocity committed in the name of religion. There is no scripture of authority in the Hindu tradition that has given sanction to this hereditary hierarchical caste system. None.
I do wonder what he would think about the class system that's kind of in, well, I know in America, which is a economic class system. The poor, I wouldn't say it's made up, but it exists not because it was forced upon, but it's more along the lines is that it's like, let's put these categories there. So now you have the poor, you have the middle class, the lower middle class, and upper middle class, and then the rich. These is a hierarchy, but it's not like something that says, okay, you have to stay in the middle class. It's just that if your income falls within this range, you're middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class, or poor, or super rich. And it's up to you where you fall in that based on, well, how lucky you are or how smart you are. And you can be lucky, hit the lottery, and become super rich, and then 6 months later, super poor. Or be smart about it and invest in whatever else. You know, I wonder what he thinks about that. He probably says because it's not something that you're inherited and not something that you're stuck with, that you can actually change your status based on working hard and being smart. Working hard alone doesn't necessarily make you successful. Working smart and hard generally gives you a better chance. Again, nothing guaranteed.
I have to tell Edexcel in the GCSE syllabus, pull it out, otherwise I'll come after you. Because I'll say, where do you get this from? Oh, but it's visible. You see, this is a part of society. This is social stratification visible in every society, in every country. 100 years ago, you had the class system in a Christian nation. It's still there. Once the BBC said, Mr. Lakhani, where is hereditary caste system practiced in the United Kingdom? That's what some little temple somewhere saying, no, outcasts, go out. There's a lot of I said, you want to know where hereditary caste system is practiced in the United Kingdom? Will you make sure that you don't edit me out and you make sure it's put out on BBC 4, Radio 4? I said, sure, come on. Where is it practiced? Yes, secret, tell us. Where is hereditary caste system practiced in London, UK? I said, make sure you do broadcast it. Buckingham Palace. By mere birth, a person is considered to be superior to the rest of us, considered to be head of the state. Forget about head of the state, head of the religion too. This is hereditary caste squared. You hit the jackpot, and all this House of Lords, and it's still going on. You see, it's visible in every society. In the Hindu tradition, we are stuck. There's a villager in India, potter, he's got a son, 5-year-old son. If I tell him hereditary caste system is horrendous stuff, you shouldn't practice it. The 5-year-old son is now ready to, he's growing up. How is he going to earn his living? There's no money, no education. His father will say, come, I'll teach you how to make pots. We carry on, be potters. This is how it continues. Until Mr. Bill Gates goes and says, in Bangalore, we got an IT center here, come here. And all the potters then go there, become a new caste called IT specialist, go in the Silicon Valley, earn $100,000, and then come back to India, and everybody says, can you please marry my daughter? Please, please. Caste, forget the caste. This is how it will disappear. The changing economic landscape, socio-economic landscape of India will demolish it, because it never had sanction from religion. It is a socio-economic stratification. What about caste system in the United Kingdom? You might be wondering, it must be still there. Many Hindus think, yeah, it is there. Oh, yes.
Well, I mean, what he said there is very fair. I mean, obviously, if there's no other way to make money other than make pottery, they have to kind of do that. It's kind of necessary for their survival. And this is something that Sadhguru talks about as well. Obviously, if you're a fisherman, your father's a fisherman, generally speaking, they can't necessarily afford to send you to school to learn something else, because guess what? Teaching you to be a fisherman is free because your father can teach you for free. And as a matter of fact, him teaching you to do it for free is beneficial for him because you can help him fish, catch more fish, and then whenever he becomes old or sick, you can kind of pick up the slack for him and go fishing yourself. It's kind of what has been done throughout the entirety of history, because fishing, blacksmithing, jewelry making, whatever, are all very specialized skills. Takes years of training to do it, and if you don't have someone to teach you, it's going to be very hard. And so having like an apprentice, or sorry, I don't know what to call them, masters or teachers or whatever, to teach you is amazing, because you can learn things a lot easier. It doesn't mean you can't learn extra things, but obviously if they can teach you how to do it the right way the first time around, that saves you a lot of time, trouble, headaches, and pains. So it's odd. I mean, it makes sense that a potter's son is going to be a potter, because it's what the father knows how to do and can teach the boy that. And obviously, I wouldn't doubt there's been some people who are potters and maybe had enough money where they, I don't know, sent their boy to school to become better off. I mean, it's probably rare, but I wouldn't doubt that it has happened before.
In just one generation, this hereditary hierarchical caste system turned into a benevolent clan system. You go to any university, I go to lots of universities, ask Hindu students, did your father tell you to become a potter because your forefathers were potters? They say, what rubbish. My father said, become a doctor. Have you noticed the Hindus are gravitating towards the medical fields? They are taking over. 50% of doctors in London, I think, are Hindus, 60% chemists, 40% opticians, and about 30% dentists. They're taking over. This is a new caste they're setting up. I said, but you are potters. How dare you? You lost your Hinduism. You're not supposed to do stuff like that. Oh, no. They said, become doctors. No hereditary. Okay? What about hierarchy? Suppose one Hindu young youth comes up in your Hindu society and says, look, I'm Brahmin. Sit at my feet and massage. That's written in the scripture. What do you do to him? They say, we show him rude hand gestures, which I can't show you. No hierarchy. Oh dear, you can't be Hindus anymore. Oh no, we are Hindus. See what has happened. The changing socio-economic landscape allowed this to disappear in one generation. There'll still be tendency to marry within the same group, and the reason for this is not because of hierarchy. Do you know why? Because they share the same diet, the same language, same humor, or sometimes lack of humor. So they can live with each other better. That's the only reason they'll marry in the same group. But there's not a hereditary hierarchical caste system in UK at all. It disintegrated in one generation because it was never a prescription of the religion. I've given you kind of interesting ideas. I've touched on some of the more esoteric stuff.
I'm wondering if we should, like, again, I wouldn't doubt there are certain Hindus out there that are bad in teaching this way, where I am the higher of the head. Again, Sadhguru, I believe, touched up on this, where there are some bad Hindus out there who do this. I mean, that's just human beings. They're just garbage human beings all over the place. We have to acknowledge that, obviously. But you can't just say all of India is doing this. I mean, I'm hoping he's not talking about all of India. I have a feeling he's just talking about the I guess perhaps the bad ones he's run into. Because, again, to me this makes more sense. There are more good people in the world than bad. So, and you apply that globally, and then into, say, into like even in countries, there are more good people in America than bad. There are more good people in China than bad. There's more good people in India than bad. There's more good people in Britain than bad. But yeah, and then I mean, again, India being very big, and this goes back to what Suguru said about even there's still probably some people in India that don't know that they're part of India, because again, India's being very big. I'm sure there are a lot of remote parts, and then they marry within their town, because the next town is like 2 days over or whatever. Not everyone has cars or motorcycles. Some still travel by foot, or even, I don't know if by horse, I'm not sure. But not everyone is rich in such a huge country. And it's not really necessary for the most part, because you had everything essentially in your town, and sometimes you do go trade in another town. But yes, so the skills are passed down from father to son or daughter, or mother to daughter or son, and then they're married within the village, and the village grows. That makes sense. That has nothing to do with what he was talking about. But again, I want to think that he's talking about, like, there are certain Hindus out there that are just using the religion to their advantage, much like, again, any religion in the world, where you have these a-holes that will use it to their advantage because they just crave the power.
I also touched on some of the pragmatic, practical material issues in Hinduism. Next 20 minutes, I'm open for question and answers, and you are welcome to ask any point. I don't feel at all nervous. I've been hit by so many questions. There's nothing much worse you can do, so go for it. Feel absolutely comfortable to ask me anything that bothers you, worries you about what I've just said, or something that I've not covered so far. Please feel free. Anybody, please do fire away. Yes.
We're secondary teachers, and we're doing human rights at the moment. And I love the analogy of the mother being the god and the child being the god, the baby god. But what do you do when we're looking at human rights with like Hitler, and they would say to you, and what do you do if Hitler is one of your gods? The idea of how do you overcome that to
marvelous, marvelous. You see, this is important, because it's marvelous to say, whitewashing, say reverence for all life. Does it mean that because there is God in tiger, I go and embrace the tiger? No, because he'll have you for lunch. So you embrace that God behind bars, keeping behind bars and say, oh, you are God, but stay there, and I stay. In the same way, you see, this religion, we are pragmatic. We recognize this idea of reverence for life has to be seen in context. Context. Let me just touch on some very important idea that you just brought out. Gandhi became world famous because he used this idea of non-violent struggle. Just imagine the power of Gandhi. This one man managed to, if you like, rattle the whole British Empire by simply insisting that this is not right, and I'm going to stand up against you in a non-violent manner. He succeeded. Got independence for India in a non-violent manner. And his ideas were picked up by Martin Luther King about 60 years ago. Imagine 60 years ago in the United States, Obama could not have gone in a white bus. 60 years ago, segregation. And just using this Gandhi's idea, fighting for human rights in a non-violent manner, that we now have a black president in the United States. See how this idea has marveled, has matured, very, very visible. Now, the important idea is this. If instead of Britain ruling India at that time, at that juncture, suppose Hitler was ruling India, and Gandhi put up his hand and said, non-violent struggle, do you know what he would have done? He said, come here, I'll shoot you first. You would have been shot. You wouldn't have heard the name Gandhi. And any of his followers, million people would say, we are going to be non-violent. They would say, come here, I'll easier to catch you. Come here, I'll shoot a lot of you. We would have killed a lot. Gandhi in his own time said, we should fight Hitler using violence. So the idea of non-violence comes in context. You have to decide and see the context and decide to what extent you can put it into practice. So if Hitler is ruling, you have no choice but to fight against it in a violent. There was no choice. If Britain was ruling and they had a conscience you could prick, you got it. Then you prick the conscience and get away. So depending on the context you find yourself, you use the idea of non-violence in contextual terms. So with Hitler, you need to take violence with violence. We are not a pacifist religion. You will say fight. With Britain, we say we'll get away without that. And we manage to get away. So the idea of violence or non-violence comes in context. Let me do a funny story so you'll get an idea. And I use it in classes. I say, suppose, they've been telling you that every living thing is the manifestation of Brahman, sparkling, God coming through, marvelous idea. Now suppose you get an infection in your lungs, and there are 1,000 bacteria dancing in your lungs having a party. And they grow very fast. There are billion in no time. There are billion bacteria dancing away and you are going, ah! These are living God in your lungs, billions of them dancing and having good time. You are supposed to be non-violent Hindu. What do? I ask them. Yes, we go to the chemist and get an antibiotic and put them to rest straight away. See? We recognize the contextual limitation. We are saying that we are, if you like, the clearest manifestation of the Spirit. We are very valuable, and more valuable than 1,000 bacteria or million bacteria. So we are imposing a hierarchy. So the Hindus will say, look, if you want to eat, most living things live off other living things. Have you noticed? This is the sad part of evolution. Living things live off other living things. The only living thing that doesn't live off other living things are plants. The rest of us are kind of culprits, all of us. I'm a vegetarian, but I love to crunch those apples and those lovely carrots. Don't you see? I'm a horrible monster. I'm eating living things. See the contextual element. I cannot help it. So we recognize the contextual limitation of the idea of reverence for life. But we deal with it and we do our best. Again, most of the issues in Hindu tradition, ethical and moral issues, even abortion, euthanasia, we say, use your own rational faculties and decide what is best. There is no hard and fast rule that will give you in a book saying, this is written. We say, you decide what is the context in which you find yourself and take a decision. We throw the responsibility at you. No book will guide you.
I was gonna actually ask him a little bit earlier. It's like, okay, obviously we need to eat living things to live. Well, obviously it's not alive when we eat them. Some things aren't alive when we eat them, but then he kind of answered it with there's an eating hierarchy in there where obviously we eat, whatever it is we eat. Obviously, we then value ourselves over whatever we eat because, well, I don't know why. Because we are higher in the food chain, I guess. Well, he talks about the viruses in the lungs as well. It's like, yeah, what do you answer to that? Well, you took an antiviral, just mass murdered the entire virus in your lungs there. So, and what I heard him say was that we value ourselves more than the virus. But so this kind of goes to the point of a hierarchy, as in we value ourselves higher than other things, which is, I wouldn't say it's necessarily wrong, but but at that point you can kind of justify your actions to some degree. I guess the way to rationalize that for me would be that if it's trying to harm you, then you can harm it back to protect. You can protect yourself. Hopefully to scare it off. Hopefully to slap it in the face and it runs away. Hopefully not to kill it, but if it has to come to that, then maybe you do. Obviously you want to take the least, I think most people would want the least violent method possible, just saying booga 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 and it runs away. Like if a bear or a tiger or a lion or whatever comes after you, you say booga 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 and it goes away. That's probably what everyone wants. but obviously it doesn't always end up that way. So at that point, you may have to defend yourself whatever way you can possibly. Obviously, it's a losing situation unless you have a weapon that can, do something about it. But again, so far there's the hierarchy he explains about the viruses versus us. We value ourselves.
So we throw the response saying it's contextual, and maybe you would redraw the lines, the boundary line, but we let you have that freedom. I'll take some more questions.
Okay, actually I'm going to pause it right there. But yeah, maybe I did speak a lot in this one, didn't I? I started 17 minutes. I've already talked way more than the video has played. Whoops. But it was a lot of, hopefully a lot of information that was pretty good. I did have a lot to say because he talked about pretty nice things here. Again, I like to think that he's talking about just a very particular set of bad Hindus out there who uses the religion in a bad manner, in a bad faith manner, and trying to use it to gain power. I mean, that has happened throughout all religions in the world. I believe all religions in the world. Let me say most religions in the world. That has always happened. Because any position of power, corrupt people, bad people will try to get in that position and abuse it. That is without a doubt. So, anyways, at least that's the end of part 2. Hopefully there's just one more part and that's it. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.